Okay, the recording has started, and welcome everybody for the Idolmaster subs. We're here still on season 1 for the podcasts of each branch, and for today we are going to have the SideM podcast with the cooperation of Izzy. Izzy, welcome to the show.
Hello, I'm Izzy. I love SideM.
Thank you very much. We actually do appreciate her because she went ahead and volunteered to be on the show. I was looking for somebody to be our co-host, and little did I know, someone actually DM'd us after the Million Live podcast and said, "Hey, I want to be on your show." We very much appreciate you being proactive, checking out the show. It's exactly what we wanted to happen. So we usually start off these shows by having the co-host introduce themselves because I already introduced myself on the very first episode. So Izzy, tell us a little more about yourself.
Okay, so I've been into IMAS for, I guess, like over 5 years now, and I mostly got into IMAS through SideM, and I've been following SideM for all these years. I'm the admin of SideM English, and I help out with fandom whenever I can, so I do translations and sometimes work on the wiki. Also, I'm the admin of Side Memes, so
Cool, thank you very much.
also important.
The community work is something that we love doing because it lets people appreciate the things that we like the most about the series a lot more, because with the way Idolmaster is set up, it's really hard to find stuff because there's so many branches and there's so many characters and stuff. People don't really know where to look or know where to go to get information. So we're very happy for all the community effort you've done, stuff that you've taken out of your time, because we don't really get paid to do all this stuff. You know, it's not like we're employees of Bandai Namco to set up all these wikis and all these Twitters, but we do it because we love the series. So we'll go ahead and set up to the very first question. But by the way, just a quick disclaimer, since this is season 1, we're still starting off on sort of like starter topics so that anyone who will be interested in the podcast will get a general feel of what it's like before they want to dive into it some more. So the first question is, like what I've asked for the previous two, is simple. What do you like the most about SideM? What do you think makes SideM unique? Is it something that you think that they do better than other series? Is there something that you think you have stuck to the series for specifically? Go ahead.
Okay, so for me, it's just definitely the character and the character writing. I think that's SideM's strongest point. And the characters alone are what pulled the series in the beginning. Because when it started out, there was no voices, no music. It was just the bare bones browser game. Not even the art was too good. But I think since the characters were just so unique and the concept itself was just, something new, a lot of people stuck around. And how, everyone comes from such different backgrounds and stages of life. And I remember first seeing how, all the guys had some sort of occupation and just thinking, how is that going to work? Why is he going to be an idol after going to law school? And, I thought their choices were, absurd, and it was, kind of gimmicky. But that's also what intrigued me. And then you find out that they all have their reasons. Hence the Wakeate idol theme. And, as a producer, you're the one to find out what the reason is and help them reach their goals. And I just thought it was a very unique theme. And overall, the cast is, really genuine, I feel something about teachers past their prime in spandex with laser guns, hoping to motivate students into studying, and rapping the periodic table is just so genuine. And there's definitely someone for everyone. And for each character, there's so many different sides of them, and there's always the side you would never expect, which is definitely something that got me hooked. Because I just loved learning about them and always wanted to learn more. And just through the Mobage, it always gave me something to look forward to. Because I always wanted to see what are they up to? What's the next thing they're going to do? How are they going to celebrate this holiday? I wonder what this character's card will look like. And of course, all the event stories and event magazines. And the series has really good lore. I feel there's so many mysteries and questions that it's actually kind of weird how we still don't know the answers to, but they keep the fans and me always coming back and really eager to read the stories when my idols get, featured in events. So, yeah, so I guess just the characters being so strong and just so intriguing, it's what had me hooked. And other than that, it's just like a feel-good series. There's no like big crazy melodrama or like any bad guys. It's just like some guys being dudes wanting to better themselves and make the world a better place. It's just wholesome. So yeah.
That last part is definitely what I feel sets this series apart from like others, because a lot of people are going to be surprised when they like check out the statistics, see, the landscape of the fan base. A lot of people are definitely surprised when they first look at like the fan base behind SideM, and they realize that a good chunk of the fan base are actually guys, straight males. They're not like, homosexual, they're not like, they're there because they are, attracted to other male characters. They're there because SideM has somehow made a theming and a character spread that is also welcoming for guys to enter the community and enter the franchise. Because speaking as a male, I do find some of the characters in SideM relatable. Some of them I actually admire. For context, 3 of my favorite units in SideM are like Altissimo, and then I also very admire Sam, and then Jupiter's like probably my favorite. Case in point, my biggest case in point is definitely Toma, because there was this one thing that I really didn't like about how most of anime portrays male characters. It's either you're an asshole, or like you're this super creepy guy, this super creepy fat guy, or you're like super hot and then like you just trample all over the other guys and you get all the chicks, right? So I really didn't like that character. Yeah, right? You see those kind of characters everywhere in other shows.
And that's what I mean by genuine. And when SideM came out and when I was getting into it, there actually like wasn't really any male idols. There was Utapri, which is like, totally different. I mean, it's great in its own way, but since SideM was so different, and a lot of the times in like Bishi or Otome anime, not that SideM's Otome, but the guys are just, they're so like, oh, I'm so hot and great. And then
totally.
SideM just like doesn't really have that like, oh, I'm the Bishi, I'm the hot guy, and like I feel like one of the characters is like super ikemen, which is Kyoji, and he's just like totally awkward and unaware, which I think is really cute and endearing.
I agree with that.
Of course.
I agree with that wholeheartedly. When I look at other idol series that are for, based around otome sort of series, I look at, Utapri and stuff like Idol 7, Ensemble Stars. I feel like, it's as if this series is telling me these guys are always better than me. These guys on the screen are always going to get more girls than me. They're going to be hotter than me and all that stuff. But when I check out SideM, I see these characters, they're like, dude, bro, I know what you feel. I've been there, because, they've experienced some bad stuff in their lives. Some of their past is really rocky. And, it just sets the tone for, like, they're not super perfect guys, right? Even though they've had some of these occupations that, sometimes are kind of hard to get to, like being a plane pilot or a doctor. It's if they also show vulnerability alongside it. What I also like SideM for is it breaks a lot of the conventions that what most people thought they would do. Because there was a large sentiment that SideM, for the Idolmaster part, was going to be solely based off of the fact that most of the other franchises are series with girls for guys, and that SideM was going to be a series with guys for girls. And this was completely dispelled when they made the anime, and when everyone thought, okay, we're going to get SideM anime, it's going to be all Otome style, the producer's going to be a girl, because that's what everyone thought. If all the series where the idols are girls have a guy producer, we're going to have a series with guy idols and a girl producer, and it didn't happen. Because what they want to focus on, what they want to embody is the fact that SideM is not that. SideM is more about the wholesome sort of like gathering between guys that, can just be platonic. It doesn't really need to be anything about stuff like, gay undertones, which, is not all that bad, but you can display the interactions between male characters in a different and more wholesome light, which I really, really like from SideM. And lastly, lyric writing. Like, the lyrics writing in most of the songs, I love how they write a lot of the things close to the characters. Like, they wouldn't make a song for this guy so that he can just sing it, right? They would make a song for a character because that character has things that relate to him to the lyrics, and they don't just haphazardly pick people who would sing. That's very, very admirable that they just take everything into account whenever they make songs and music. Like the World Treasure series, they sent Kay to the Germany CD because, you know, Kay's all German, and it's really good. All the choices are well thought out, lyrics-wise and music-wise. So that's one of the, or three things that I like SideM. And it should open up to people's eyes that, you know, even if you're a guy, even if you haven't tried a male idol series before because that's what you think all of them are like, SideM is like this, and it's a lot different from what you think, and I thoroughly enjoy it.
Yeah, and for like the IMAS fans who are not into SideM, it's like, it still feels a lot like IMAS, especially when you watch the anime, and I thought the anime was like really good representation of SideM. Of course, it could have had more episodes and, you know, gave focus to every unit, but what we did get was just really great, and you could tell that the people who wrote the anime, they knew the series. They like they had so many like subtle things that only fans who've been, you know, playing the MOBA would get, and it was just like, as a longtime fan, it was just a really good feeling to, you know, for them to be like, hey, we see you guys.
Speaking as someone who was from like the original series, the original 765 series, that episode 0, episode of Jupiter, was perfectly executed. I swear to God, the whole segue between like the movie into like Jupiter afterwards, man, that was good. That was awesome. That was,
yeah.
I really like the way they transitioned into it. So that's what we like about the series. And of course, you got to be objective. Question number 2 is, where do you think SideM could use some improvements? Where do you think SideM kind of feels a little lacking in some places? What do you think they could do better?
Oh God. Yeah. I don't want to kill the mood or put SideM in a bad light, because we were on a great start, but the series is just not in a good position right now. I don't know if other branches are aware, but just the scheduling we've been having and lack of updates. And I don't want to sound like an entitled fan, and I could want to be grateful for what we get, but this is just like me critiquing and
oh no, it's perfectly fine. Because we have to be objective as much as possible.
Yeah, so I mean, none of SideM's issues have to do with like it at its core, like the characters, the seiyuu, the lives, the music, except for the release schedule. Like everything it does when it has the opportunity to do things, it always is great. Aside from M stage, good stuff. It's just the poor management that gets in the way and stops SideM from being the best it can be, and kind of turning fans against it. The Japanese fandom has like this sort of tag for complaining about SideM. It's called Saimuri on Twitter, and, you know, there was actually a tweet that blew up yesterday, and it got like over 2,000 retweets, which is like more than the usual official SideM Twitter. And I think that like kind of puts things in a nutshell. Because SideM had a slow start, but then, and it definitely peaked in 2017 with the anime and tons of music. Like Original Pieces was at least 5 new songs a month. And then 2018 was okay. I expected it to be quiet since we had like, you know, the anime the year before. But then 2019 was just a very quiet year, very, very slow music releases. And I mean, World Treasure is basically one new song every 2 months. Like there's the like the song that everyone sings, and then there's the World Treasure song, and there's no drama track.
Anniv CD, yeah, we had the Anniv CD.
Yeah, and the thing with the Annie CD is usually every year we get unit songs, but then this year we got just 2 songs for everybody, which was great by itself. But when we didn't have many songs in the first place, fans were kind of upset. I kind of was able to look past the music releases because they finally announced that we're going to get new unit songs. And then when fans found out that they were reusing like old illustrations, people got like pretty upset. And other than the music, it's also the games that they don't put a lot of focus on. Oh God, I'm like totally roasting SideM, but I guess want to bring it to the light because especially in the Japanese fandom, it's just like really taboo to talk about and like be open about your concerns, which is why they have the Twitter tag. So if you don't want to see people complaining, just don't follow the tag. And I don't know if other branches realize how like little SideM gets in comparison. It's like actually
No.
kind of
Once I'll take my turn, I'll definitely put my side on things. Right?
yeah. Like the games are just barely voiced. That doesn't bother me too much because I've kind of been used to it since MOBA started without voices, and it only had voices for like really special occasions. But when I play any other IMAX game, I'm like, oh my God, this is voiced. And our events, like, and I'm talking about End Stage, I think MOBA is fine for what it is. I do think it's kind of gonna get too outdated, and a lot of people, the players are just going to be veteran players, but I think it's good for what it does. But End Stage, we don't get songs for our events, and songs don't get events. Like, I want a Fun Festa event, but it just is not going to happen. And all of our events are just like, they don't really feel like real events. So our real events, which are World Treasure, are, once every 2 months, and they're not even voiced. It's just the SOG. The stories are fine, but when the idols are not put in their usual units, I think it kind of stunts character growth, which I think why the idols should stay in units more than not. I mean, they already do, but I guess for an example, like, since we want to learn more about the characters' pasts, if you put them with other people, they usually will not talk about them. If you put them with their same unit members, they will. I guess, like, for example, no one really knew what Haruna's parental situation was for the longest time. And when he finally spoke about it, he was just talking to Natsuki, and he's like, oh, I'm only talking about this because it's you. And that's how we got to learn about the characters. If they're put with idols who, they'll have chemistry, but since they're not as close as units, it's usually just like, today we are doing this activity. Wow, it is fun. Oh, it's Kari. Like, there's the entire story. When they're put with, a mixed unit, and
Shiny Colors has this same problem actually right now. It's actually going through the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and at first when I was getting to SideM, I was just like, because they used to be really strict, like, units can only talk to their unit. Like, it was actually kind of weird at first, and I always thought, like, this is so weird. Why can't we have the characters interacting with other units? And then I realized why they do that. And I think especially in the early Mobage event stories, they had quicker characterization, not quicker characterization, but they would like drop the bits and pieces of lore like quicker than the stories do now. Like, if you were to read, for example, the Byte events in order as they came out, you would notice in the early ones, they do talk about their pasts more, and then the recent ones, they kind of slow down a little. But I see why they do that, because they want to stretch out things as long as they can. I do think they should progress their story a little bit more. For example, like Minori's Side Memories came out, and for people who don't know about Minori, he's the florist of Byte, the one with the ponytail.
One of my favorites too. One of my favorites.
Yeah. He's like, what I find really funny and charming about him is he has like so many different sides to him, so many quirks and just weird things you wouldn't expect. And so yeah, he's an idol otaku, and he was actually like in canon fans of 765 and Jupiter.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, they show him in his like his first magazine chapter, which is pretty much the comics in the Mobage, he was at a Ryugyu Komachi concert. But also he was a delinquent.
Yeah, he's a tough guy.
Yes, and there's actually a whole bunch of lore with him and Shinsoku Ikan, which is a whole other thing I could get into. But what I'm saying is he holds his past as complete secret from everybody. Like, not in the Mobage, apparently. Not even his unit members or producer know about it. And so he finally gets his side memories, which is pretty much a side story that an idol gets every month where they connect with their old life. They will meet someone who was from their past life, and then they'll bring up their issues in the light, and so producer can talk to them about it. And so, Minori got to see his president of his biking gang, and he was a vice president, yeah. And there was also the president's nephew who, yeah, it was a big thing. But the whole thing with the story, at the end, he was just like, you know what, producer, I'm going to continue holding this as a secret. Like, thank you for talking to me, but I'm not going to tell anyone because I'm still uncomfortable, which is kind of sad, but I wish they still would include that type of thing. Or just something like, I think there wouldn't be an issue if they, yeah, but basically what I was saying right there is like, they didn't, Minori finally got his spotlight, but then they don't choose to progress the story. I really hope that they'll bring it up in future events. And then, like, I guess another example of them, or me hoping they can progress the story is, I guess, like with Takeru, he's always trying to find his siblings. I really think they can just be like, hey, kid, we're going to throw you a bone. You can find your siblings, and he can still continue being an idol after that. Just stuff like that. But like I said, if they were to do this, then that would kind of just, like, close the book, maybe. But, of course, there's always room after that. But that's actually more of a minor complaint, and I feel bad for going off about it. But I guess another thing I wanted to say, and this was looking at the last anniversary PD, IMAS likes to present themselves as, like, we are all one, we are one big family, like, look at us, we got our arms around each other, but then I was like, SideM is kind of kicked to the curb, and other branches get consistent content and are always improving. Why not SideM? And, I mean, I always find it funny whenever Thursday adds a new feature. I'm like, what more could they have? I just think it's always trying to one-up itself, always striving to be better, especially Mirishita. I'm not too up-to-date with the Shining Colors games, but I know that they've had really great music schedule, and I honestly think they're going to have, or they already have more unit songs than the SideM units, which, oof. And
mm-hmm. I can see it.
I think, yeah. I don't know why things are the way they are, because SideM fans have proved themselves time after time, like, hey, we exist, we love SideM. Like, the anime won all of those awards that were fan-voted. There was top-selling VD. Teru won the male anime character.
Yeah, it made Idolmaster
from New Type
the top-selling 2018 franchise by itself. And I'm like, if that's not enough proof, what is? So
yeah, so it's like, why didn't we get season 2? I mean, they got Wake Vini, but Wake Vini got 12 episodes when Shingeki and Puchimas got like 100. Like, that is a huge difference, and that's just only one example of many where it's just kind of like, huh. And I think, I don't know what the reason is. Maybe Bamco just doesn't believe in SideM. Maybe they don't think it's as worthy because it's aimed mostly towards female. And I know you did say it's aimed towards males too, but at its core. And there was actually an interview about M Stage before it came out, and they were like, oh, we made the game easy and simple for girls.
Yeah, that's not exactly a detail you should say, but
right?
Yeah.
I was like, all right, that's, yeah. And I think their biggest problem is that they are not focusing on the games. Yeah. And they put a lot into the lives. The lives are amazing, and
I've heard
everything about the lives. I actually went to third level, but
Nice. Thank you for
yeah.
support.
And but the thing is with lives,
Not everyone
a
can
live
like
can
get
only
onto
go
them.
so far.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, and a live cannot sustain someone. It cannot, like, listening to the lives and the music, you can't really get to know the characters through that. You need to play the MOBA, but if the MOBA is not very appealing to people, because MOBA is what, it's going to get people hooked, because they can play at their own pace. They can play throughout their daily life and always have it, as a part of their life, instead of just, oh, the live is like a couple times a year, or, hey, I'm going to buy a BD once when you can spend that amount on gacha. No, I'm
Yeah,
kidding. But,
it's cool. Yeah. Uh,
yeah,
I genuinely
there's,
agree.
sorry.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. But I
And I
genuinely
want to
agree.
make one more point.
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry. And it's just, I don't want to put SideM down. It's just, I guess it's more of a critique thing. And just one more thing, it's easy to say, like, if you don't like SideM, just quit. But, I'm too attached, and it's like, I know they have what it takes. They proved it in the past that they can get SideM up there, they can hype it up, but there's so many talented illustrators, so many talented composers, great characters to build upon. They just need to take advantage of it, and I'm just waiting for the day that Bamco just wakes up and they're like, you know what we should do today? Treat SideM as good as the other branches. I don't want to put SideM in a bad light. It's just in a really bad position right now. I'm really hoping we can have like some sort of renaissance in 2020, because 2019 was just, every time there was a live or a Nikonama, everyone's like, this is it. They're going to announce some great stuff. SideM's going to get back to the way it was, and it never happened. So we can only hope for the next announcement, see what they're going to do, because I really don't think things like this will last forever. I don't think SideM's going to die.
Yeah, I definitely agree with genuinely everything you've agreed so far. Speaking as someone who digs really deep, because I played a lot of the console games. I currently play Dead Stage and Million Theater and Shiny Colors. So basically, I'm very much knee deep into the games. And as someone who does try to appreciate SideM as much as I can, I did feel this really big lacking in that. I wish I had a better platform. I wish I could find some place where maybe if I could probably buy a couple of packages or so whenever Kaoru's on the gacha, because I like Kaoru. But there's no real like super optimized output platform for it for someone like me. But
because MOBA is so outdated.
MOBA is so outdated, and it's super Japanese text heavy. If it's like commus, I can understand, because again the problem is with the voice. And I will have to admit, I will have to be play the devil's advocate here, because I really, really like Million Theater. It's probably my favorite game out of all the current ones that's active, but it feels like Million Theater definitely is currently being treated like the baby. Some can say it's like Starlight right now, but it's kind of like a mixed opinion. But I'm thinking
the vibes I get from the management is that they care so much. They love their fans, and they always want to give them the best. And it is, honestly, I get so jealous looking at the other branches to a point where sometimes I can't even play it, because I'm like, God, why did SideM get this?
Can't you give them this? Can't you give them that?
I want events songs. You guys get songs? What?
It's just so hard to it hurts me. It does kind of hurt me a bit that say we get all this good stuff and SideM doesn't really get anything. What you said about every time there's a live stream, whenever it's Idolmaster General Anniversary, or the recent one before on Christmas, there's Starlight Stage gets 5 new features. Shiny Colors gets 3 giveaways, and SideM gets a song. That's all they get. SideM gets an MV of an already existing song with Bait and freaking what was the second unit? Eureka Diary.
Not to mention
Bait and Sen,
not to mention that when they announced the second anniversary songs to be put in the game, there was I don't know, a half-year gap between the two. So they're so weird with their release schedule.
Because Pride Star is awesome. Yeah, Pride Star is so awesome.
Pride Star is great. Pride Star makes me emotional. But yeah, I just wish that they could at least be more upfront about what is going on. And just to make matters worse and make SideM sound even worse, they've even been like cutting things in M Stage. Like they cut one of the features that set it apart from any other IMAX game. Well, I mean, Narishita kind of has this, but it was like there's special performances for the SR cards. Like, let's say the SR card is, for example, okay, my mind just went blank, but maybe like the one where Kyoji has his like hand up to a mirror and he sees his reflection. Like they would put that like animation like in the MV when you play. It was actually really cool. They had like I know I have one card where it's like Saki sitting on a parfait, and you actually get like the parfait show up in the MV, and Saki, puts out their spoon. It's super cute. They took that away, which I kind of get because it might have been expensive, but where are they putting the money, or did they not? I don't know. And then they cut rewards. Like they cut the amount of events we get each month to replace one slot with a birthday event, which is kind of like a reprint. And it was actually great. It played like Mario Party, and you would get so many stars. Yep. But then they cut the rewards by like 2/3. And I know they do that to like boost sales, but it's just like a big middle finger to the fans. Like it's giving them less of an incentive to play. Like you want to keep your players. You want to treat them well. It's kind of funny. Like they don't think they can be generous, but like do they look at like the other games where they're like free 10 pulls and all these items, and they still can sell well because they're giving their users an incentive.
I do hope the best for the fans. I do hope the best for the series in general, because I really, really appreciate what they do. You're right. There is sort of like an underlying feeling that there's like this a low period. Every branch has had their low period. I could definitely tell you, like, All-Stars has probably...
I was going to say...
The very famous All-Star low period.
I watched your video about it, and that seriously gave me hope about SideM. I was like,
right?
You know what, they're just going through their rough point right now. Like, one day, things are going to be great, because, like, 765 is, like, thriving right now. Like, people were so worried about it, especially after Stella Stage.
Yeah.
But, like, right now, they're doing great. I mean, I think they are. If they're not, then...
No, they're actually... like, what happened, sort of like a side note here, what happened is they almost died twice. Oh, so this will give you even more hope. 765 almost died twice because of the Ryugu Komachi fiasco, where they literally removed Azusa, Iori, and Ami from the game, and then they came back in the next console game, and so that was the time they almost died, which is the reason why a lot of people hate Toma now, but they got over it. So Toma's a good boy. Toma's good boy mode. Y'all gotta respect
Toma's
Toma.
A good boy.
Yeah. And the second time they almost died is when, Platinum Stars was like the crappiest console game ever, and it was just an obvious cash grab. And, we're returning to the usual schedule of 765 All-Stars next year, because 2017 almost had no All-Stars content. The only thing they did was show up in theater days, and that's it. They didn't sing any new songs. They didn't sing any, they didn't even have a live show. So next year, we're returning to...
They really feel like part of Narishita now, not just like add-ons, like, hey, like, how 765, Namiko, I always say 765 for no good reason. Namiko was in Cinderella Girls at first, kind of like to promote it.
Yep.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I see it. The original cards they had in Cinderella Girls had them when the game started. But we're going off a little on track here. SideM is great, and they did have an amazing 2017, probably an amazing year period after that. But, every branch has its low periods. Heck, even Theater Days also had its low period when Grimace died and they couldn't set up anything up.
Yeah.
Cinderella also had a really bad time when they ran through all that gigantic drama about adding new girls. So, while I do understand that it could just be also a low point for SideM, I also do recognize the fact that they just don't get enough. They don't get as much as others. So I do wish that that can be ironed out in the future. But we'll move over to questions.
And like I said,
Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Like I said, the problem SideM has is not at its core, because it's a great series and has a lot of good stuff to offer. Just hopefully once in the future when Bamco starts treating it right, then it can really, I want to get back to 2017. and just they need to push and shove. And the one post that got really popular in the Japanese fandom, it wasn't really like bitching. Sorry for my language. It was more like just someone presenting facts, bringing it to the light, and then at the end, it was just like, "Ganbatte, SideM," like we know you can do it.
Yeah, wholesomeness. Like that's what we always drive home with SideM. It's wholesome.
Yeah.
So we're going to move over to question 3, and question 3 will be a nice segue over to what we just finished up with. Question 3 is, what are you most excited for SideM about moving forward? Let's say that 15th anniversary is like another jump start for the entire series, like for all branches. Let's say 15th is like Bamco just chugs more money into every series, and not only everything goes into one spotlight, but everything's in a spotlight now. What do you think SideM will get that's going to be the most exciting, the most thrilling? What do you think will be in the future that you have in store for you?
I can't say, because they're just so unpredictable with what they're going to do next. If we live in an ideal world and things do get better, I'm really excited to just see what's going to happen after World Treasure, because, God, I cannot take World Treasure anymore. It's been 2 years. I'm ready for the next thing. I think it's going to be Drama on Stage, which is like SideM's version of the... I don't remember what it's called, but it's in Mirishita, where it's like you vote for roles in a drama.
Oh, the voting series. Yeah, okay.
Yes. And SideM's actually always had a lot of voting stuff in general, and I think I actually should have mentioned this earlier. SideM is so good with their dramas. Like, their AUs kind of are just, they're very self-contained. Like, every character has like a whole bunch of other characters they play as, and they all have like names, and each of like the dramas have like their own world. And like, there was actually this one tweet by, it was a Japanese fan, and they were like, "Huh? Cybernetic Wars isn't its own series?"
Cybernetic War is so good. Teru just nails it every single time. Wow, Cybernetics. I'd play a Cybernetics War video game. Like, don't even call it like Idolmaster, right? Just call it Cybernetics War, and just have Teru and the others there, or whatever his name was. He had an original name in Cybernetics War. And let me play that. I'll pay for that.
Yeah. And that's not even, like, Cyber Wars is only, like, I have to say, when Cybernetic Wars came out, that like really revolutionized what the drama events are like, having like their own characters and having its own world, because they did have like they kind of had dramas in the past, like, you know, for example, for Bite, they had their detective event where they, you know, they were just detectives and there was a little story. They didn't really play out the story too much in the event story. I mean, they did a little. But then Cybernetic Wars came along, and they really just showed the full potential. And they have a prequel and a sequel, and I hope we can... Like, they actually made a Cybernetic Wars manga.
Yeah.
Like, just for Cybernetic Wars, and it's been hosted in the game.
Yep, cool.
And they are just keep on building and building upon the story. Like, like, all of... in the original Cybernetic Wars, like, all of the Bite androids died. But now they're back to life. And I really hope they can get a CD for it. And it's kind of sad to realize, like, oh, SideM's biggest like drama doesn't have a CD. There was Cybernetic Wars 0, but I heard they didn't make more after that because of sales, which is unfortunate. But the best-selling CD of 2019 for SideM was the Best Game 2 CD. So I really hope they can build upon, because it's concepts people already love. I mean, M-Stage is like, they're bringing their new concepts to the table, and they seem promising so far. I just hope they get a song and voices, and it's not just any other old event. But yeah, SideM has so many great AUs just for about any genre. There's even... And then the last voting we had in Mobage, it was a sequel to the Magical Boy event with Sem and Mofu Mofuen. And so Cafe Parade is going to continue that story. Yeah, it's really enjoyable, really great. So that's another thing I love about SideM. But I'm getting off track. Future. Like I said, I just always excited to see what's going to come next. I really do think... just the slightest chance Season 2 is kind of possible. Like, maybe this is just me being like delusional and hopeful, but I think if another IMS branch got an anime now, I would be like, okay, it's done for SideM. But since nothing has come out since SideM, I still think there's a chance for another season. But I don't know.
I remember reading somewhere that Sakagami was like, I don't know where I read this. I just remember reading it. I remember coming across my memory, whether it was like a corporate meeting somewhere, maybe like some leaked documents or rumors from old producers. They said that they're delaying a lot of stuff because 15th is just 15th, and if they don't nail 15th and they don't make it the most amazing thing ever, it's gonna be like a disappointment for like the entire series. So maybe what they're thinking is, or what I think the whole schedule and idea is, the whole reason why we don't have season 2 and something that everyone keeps, making jokes about, which is Million Live Anime and Shiny Colors Anime and all that stuff, maybe like additional movies, because other series have like so many movies and we've only had one so far, which is just All Stars. I don't even know why we don't even have a Cinderella Girls movie yet, considering how popular Cinderella Girls is. What I'm thinking is, everything's holding off for 15th, and they're going to make 15th this gigantic thing. And then after 15th, we're going to go back to regular schedule where it's, let's say, SideM Season 2, Million Anime, Shiny Anime movies. And that's what I think. That's what I'm looking forward to. And
and that's super, super exciting. And another thing I want to say, and something I brushed up upon earlier, is they want to stretch out this series as long as possible. And I think an example of, like, why they don't do certain things... if you've ever heard of, so there's this series called Dream Festival, and it's actually kind of funny because their mobile game, which was just very cringe, was actually like one of the only games Akatsuki, the people of M-Stage, made.
Yeah.
But that's not my point. Dream Fest was an idol series that they tried to be everything at once. They came out with like an arcade game, boom, and then 2 seasons, boom, and then their mobile game, and then their lives, and they just died because it was too much money and they weren't making enough profit.
I guess
that's an example of, like, they don't want to go too quick. And another thing in the SideM started with No Seiyu. I think they wanted to play safe because there was also the thing with Princess Connect that they started out with all these Seiyu, and the game was like fully voiced. And I'm talking about like the browser game. And then they couldn't get the profit. They didn't, and then it shut down. And I bet they do get a revival in the future, but I think some other series, maybe Bamco sees, their mistakes and are trying to avoid that. But who knows if that's true.
I mean, it could be in retrospect because long haul is what the 765 All-Stars have done. They're currently going on 15 years. So you're not wrong in hoping that this is what they're doing for SideM. Personally, my number one thing that I hope they continue doing, I don't know the name of the series of these cards, but the cards where they shout out, maybe this is what you were talking about a while ago, but what is the name of that series of cards where you see a younger form of the guys?
Oh, Remember Shot. I love those cards. I love those cards so much.
I want more Remember Shots.
See them.
Because Asalin's, I was like, I'm not very keen on Cafe Parade, but when I saw like his Remember Shot, where he's like this little kid and then he's like playing dolls and like he's trying to feed other things, I'm like, I wish every branch had this because there are branches where you like, there are branches where the character development is like so scarce, so like bare bones. Once again, to be objective, and this podcast is both it's not a black and white thing; it's a gray area. I really think something like Cinderella Girls needs this because the character development in Cinderella Girls is just it ends really quickly.
It is.
Yeah, it ends really quickly. You learn this one thing about the girl, and then boom, that's it.
Yeah, and I have to say that's another reason why I couldn't get too attached to it, and it's kind of ironic how they have all of these voiced stories, and they are quite repetitive, and because I said what keeps me attached to SideM is my attachment to the characters, my want to learn more about them and learn about their pasts. So, yeah, them dropping their pasts is very important.
Remember Shots. I like those. If they drop, let me tell you right now, if they drop Toma and Kaoru's Remember Shots, I'm going to be a waste on the floor. I'll be on the floor. I'll be sobbing for 3 hours straight. That's what's going to happen. I love those things.
Oh, it's going to happen. The next one is going to come out I think tomorrow. I saw leaks, I know who it is,
Really? Oh my
but I'm not gonna say
God.
it.
Okay. But I'm really excited for them because like because people will notice that the general age bracket of Side M is a lot higher because it's about guys, right? And mostly sort of like a trend between idol series that are made with guys in mind is that they're older. They're a little, you know, a
Yeah.
little aged up. You got like 20 plus. So we haven't really seen what they've done when they were younger. I'm really excited for more member shots. The fact that you just told me that it was going to come tomorrow, I'm going to be on my toes. I'm going to be on my toes.
Yeah. Well, they already showed, out of the remember shots that have come out. Well, actually that's wrong because there was Aslan, but Kyoji, who just got his,
Oh.
he's 20. So his is like a picture of him in middle school. And,
Mm-hmm.
we finally get to see his younger brother that, Kyoji has his whole, family issues and he hates all of them. But, his little brother is that one guy he still respects. And so
Oh.
we finally got a face to the name. And I just thought that was so rewarding. And we also finally got to see what Kyoji's natural hair color is.
So
Black.
So that's what I'm excited most for. Before we continue off the show, because we're currently going off on 45 minutes, we actually went a lot longer than I expected to. Thank you for your enthusiasm. Would you have anything else to close out with before we end the podcast? Again, this is season 1. It's mostly like the introductory episode. We'll go into more nitty-gritty topics in the next seasons. And if you have anything to say, go ahead.
Okay. I guess one thing I have to say, a lot of people are like, I want to get into SideM, but there's no translations. That's wrong. There's actually a lot of translations. The event stories that are like the best have great character development. Most of the time, they are all translated already. And if you go to the SideM English Twitter page, there's a master list on the bio. Also, I'm totally biased towards Byte, so if you're interested in Byte, I have like all of their best stories translated. They're good. Byte's really good. But that's another tangent I could go off on. But I guess that's all for now. So thank you for having me. I was like really glad I got to talk about SideM. When I saw you were like doing a podcast for IMS branches, I'm like, I wonder who's gonna do SideM. And I'm like, what if it was me?
Thank you. Because mostly the co-hosts I've had for Shiny, my co-host in Shiny, he's a moderator of the Shiny Discord, and my co-host for Million Live, he's like a long time guy who's been into different franchises, and he started from Million for IMAS. So it's a great honor. I'd go as far as to say it's a very privileged thing for me to have this podcast with you, because you said you were the admin for SideM English and Side Memes, because I love that page. So,
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. So that's going to do it for the first episode. We're going to put this up, and if we will have any links to the pages that Izzy has stated, we'll be putting them in the description. We thank you very much for your time here on the the Side podcast. Terribly sorry, SideM podcast season 1, and we hope you stick around for more because we have the Cinderella Girls and the All Stars podcast season 1 before we move on to season 2. Thank you very much, and we'll see you on the next one.